This started off as a really wild idea that I came up with a few years ago, and it was so crazy that I never tried to work out the details because it was just a fun idea to play around with. But the basic idea was that the Jawas had a machine that can turn people into Force Ghosts, and they can travel to other dimensions, and that's why we see them in the Phantasm movies. And it made sense at first because Qui-Gon was the first person to introduce the idea of Force Ghosts, and since he was on Tatooine for a few days, he could have used the machine to upload his consciousness like they did in Season 2 of Westworld. So that would have explained what a Force Ghost is, and it could have also explained why Obi-Wan was on Tatooine, because he was trying to learn how to make one of these machines so he can do the same thing for both him and Yoda. But that idea had way too many holes in it, and I really didn't think it was something that I could present as a plausible explanation, so I just put it in a folder full of other ridiculous ideas, and I didn't think about it again until recently. We never get a clear explanation on exactly what a Force Ghost is, or what powers they have. The prequels make it seem like becoming a Force Ghost is a technique you have to learn so your consciousness can communicate with the physical world after you die. But the sequels made them more than just ghosts, and they could use the Force to actually interact with physical things. Most fans probably saw this as just another plot hole created by people who didn't understand Star Wars. But I think it was a great addition to the lore because it actually explains what a Force Ghost is. If midichlorians are the thing that give people the ability to use the Force, why would a Jedi's soul be any different than a normal person? The moment you die, all of your special powers and connection to the Force should be gone because your soul doesn't have midichlorians.
Use your common sense.
The first thing I noticed about Force Ghosts was that they never talked to people that didn't know them personally, or anyone that's not a Force user. What if a Force Ghost is just a hallucination created by a Force user to help them deal with stressful or emotional situations? Just think about the last scene in Return of the Jedi, when Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda show up on Endor. Luke is the only one that can see them, because they only exist inside of his mind. He's happy believing that his dad and mentors went to heaven, even though Vader never learned the Force Ghost technique. Disappearing after death is pretty inconsistent too, because Qui-Gon and Vader didn't do it, but they somehow became Force Ghosts anyway. Han Solo wasn't a Jedi, and he never openly used the Force, so it's safe to say that he didn't know how to become a Force Ghost. But he shows up to talk to Kylo after he came back to life. He doesn't look like a traditional Force Ghost, but this scene proves that Force users can imagine talking to dead people whenever they feel lost or afraid. Yoda is basically a 90-year-old man in the prequel, so it's possible that he just imagined that Qui-Gon came back as a Force Ghost. But why couldn't he have talked to Obi-Wan directly? Why is Yoda the only one he can come back and visit? Because if Qui-Gon knew how to become a Force Ghost, why wouldn't this be something that he told everyone about? Obi-Wan's Force Ghost shows up on Dagobah to try to convince Luke to stay to complete his training. But what if this is just a projection being used by Yoda, the same way that Luke basically became a Force Ghost to fight Kylo? This also explains why Yoda was silly and playful in The Last Jedi, even though he was only pretending to be that way when he first met Luke. He acts this way because that's the way Luke wants to remember him. This also explains why he could make lightning strike a tree, because it was really Luke hallucinating Yoda and using his own powers to call the lightning. Again, Force Ghosts never talk to people who didn't know them personally or anyone who's not a Force user. They never talk to multiple people at once, and they never show up unless someone's emotionally vulnerable. Force Ghosts are just a coping mechanism for Force users, and we know they have this ability because we see them use it several times. So what do you think? I come up with a lot of crazy ideas, but this one makes way too much sense to not be true. I would love to hear what you think about this, so let me know in the comments.